Hello everybody, welcome back to From Rhythm to Algorithm. We continue on with our derivation. My rights continue to be violated so profoundly and extensively. This is a kidnapping, this is scientific persecution. I am seeking asylum outside of the United States. Again, it's not much point for me to continue to cite the legals, but I say it in every video to document the damage of my property. Clearly no one cares. My rights have been violated my entire life to such a profound, extensive level. The clear and present value of my property that has been provided is overwhelming. I continue to ask for a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. My life quality remains at zero. With that being said, we continue on with our derivation. What is a censor? What is sensuality? Looking to prove by derivation, by direct iteration, the complete linguistics around what censorship, sensuality could be. And so we exhaust all of the linguistics bounded by conceptualization, and we show this finiteness, this definiteness of the linguistic progression, and we exhaust it completely. And so that provides us our definition. What is a censor? Words are naturally defined. We just continue through our analysis. So as you can see, I shaved. Not much to the science, but don't have a beard anymore. But we move along. And so the first thing I wanted to start with was a question. Does J.K. Rowling have to study Harry Potter? Right? The person who wrote the book, does she have to refresh on the characters or their relationships or their interactions or what happened in chapter 4, page 3 of the Goblet of Fire? It's like, no. And so wanting to emphasize doing this derivation and proving and having this initial realization, we are on doggy duty. We might get interrupted as we are. Come on. Hey, no, bad Gussie. But we've kind of worked through the physics. I guess we'll stick with our question. But the point being is doing this derivation, having this novel analysis, having this fundamental realization, the relationships and the definitions, what is work, what is power, what is velocity, what is energy, what is entropy, all of these different relationships, you have that same type of, right, how would I forget, if I was J.K. Rowling, how could I forget what I wrote the book, right? But it's not the book, or it's not my book. And so then we're back to that mathematical analogy that's been present in history. But you get simultaneously this, if you wrote a fiction novel where it's your kind of conceptualization, you have that level of how could I forget the thing that I wrote, in addition to the mathematical rigor of I was a student, I went into calculus class, I sat there and was like, not really, but again, you had to learn things. And so you have that mathematical rigor of this is proven in society outside of me. Again, in that same feeling, you go into math class, you derive the fundamental theorem of calculus, or you don't derive the fundamental theorem of calculus, you don't have a feeling like it's not right because I didn't understand it. So you have this validation and this concreteness and this independence of validation outside of yourself. And then when you prove something for the first time, you have that initial conceptualization, which is like asking J.K. Rowling, could you forget the progress of Harry Potter? It's like, of course not, I wrote the book. And then on top of that, you have this external, completely objective validation of this is actually how the objective world works. And so wanting to emphasize that because, again, none of the definitions, I'm reading my own theorems, but it's really kind of like an active derivation and there's no chance to forget them. One, because I've derived it correctly, and two, because it's actually the correct words to the correct physical processes, and the physical processes are all around us all of the time. And then additionally, everybody's talking about the same conceptual progress of society at different levels of specificity, generality, and context all of the time. So it's like asking somebody, could you forget something that everybody's literally blurting out instinctually all of the time? Because this conceptual refinement and progress is overall done at the species level. It's like, of course you can't stop that. We'll get to some words here, but an analogy is like a big glacier. It's like it's slowly moving along. That's kind of how the feeling of this conceptual progress feels. There's a lot of little icebergs breaking off, or little shards of glass or of ice, that are these theorems, that are even these big proofing sections, but it's this overall chronological conceptual progress of the species that is this big glacier. We can't speed it up, we can't slow it down, and then that's kind of where the analogy stops, but it's just this overall chronology that we are assigning linguistics to uniquely. Again, overall looking to derive what is a censor. So we continue along. What is volume to frequency? Restating the fundamental theorem of physics, sensorality is frequentiality. generalization of frequency, natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality appreciates frequency, direct iteration. Again, appreciation being the biggest logical renormalization where it feels very new to put appreciation in relation to these other words. And so this non-proliferation, where we're just taking one step in front of the other, that's personally my entire life, but for a given axiomatic derivation, again, it's every single step for like 7 years, but it's all of the time. Like I said, I don't have to think about any of this. It's just like a feeling. But it's like a feeling like there's a notebook in my hand feeling. Sensorality is a sense of possession. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is pressure to possession? What is sessionality to seasonality? Sensorality is a special frequency. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is easing limiting? Sensorality engages language. Fundamental theorem of logic, sensorality is appreciality. Just taking our appreciationality and just condensing it, but preserving that generality. Sensorality is appreciality. Appreciality, speciality. Again, speciality is our conceptual basis and our proven chronological consequence. Speciality is special with an ITY. Because this whole overall chronological, there's a next right answer, or there's only one next completely provable answer. There's only one axiomatic derivation for everybody. It's a completely unknown thing amongst, again, if you go ask Terence Tao what's the structure of an axiomatic derivation, they wouldn't even know. And that's just genuine societal progress. But now we know. Consider the following. Now we're doing it again. Give me my money. What is energy to volume? What is energy to frequency? So now again, this is a natural linguistic logical derivation, and that's immediately E equals h nu in equation land, right? What is energy to frequency? And then that h, again, is a specific manifestation of the dynamic limit again. The dynamic limit is the mathematical representation of momentum transfer, of an interaction, of a measurement, of an exchange. But that's the exact equation, E equals h nu. So don't you see how we have all of these different equations for energy because no one's conceptualized energy as movement potential correctly? This is why. Is movement potential frequent? Again, directly conceptualizing that statement. What is energy to frequency? Energy is movement potential. Is movement potential frequent? Yep, that's why you sleep, that's why you eat, that's why your cellular generation is this cycling of like pulsing, right? Like I have that, again, grave bodily harm to my ear. I had an ear infection, which I couldn't properly treat because I don't have constitutional rights. Again, thank you, Governor DeWine, for standing up for all Ohioans. But it comes in waves. It comes in cycles. Again, the female ovulation period of just like, again, the gush, not to use a crude example, but it's just true. In the same way where if you have a scar and the pus comes out, it's like this cycle generation expression thing. But energy is movement potential frequent. That's what cyclicality is. What is space to light? Is space viscous? Is light viscous? What is amplification to preservation? What is amplification to conservation? Sensorality amplifies sensation. Direct iteration. What is amplification to filtration? What is amplification to appreciation? Sensorality amplifies appreciation. Magnitude is amplified. Amplification scales. Sensorality is ample. Natural definition, direct iteration. Ample is sufficient. What is ample to supple? Sensorality is an ample amount of time. Ample is adequate. Adequate is sufficient. Is torrential tropical? Is tropical typical? Is cynicality typical? What is cynicality to cyclicality? Direct iteration. Sensorality is possessive. Ownership is possessive. What is censorship to ownership? Sensorality is ownerality. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is answerability. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, probably the only actual conceptual type of conjecture we've made this entire time is we put this in orange letters way back when, but answerability, sensor, answer was a direct iteration, put it in orange letters. Because again, this well-defined analysis process, there's no point to even like do anything like conjecture-wise. It's just, there's just the right next answer, and you just write that shit down. Sensorality would appreciate an answer, direct iteration. Answering responds. Sensorality is a respectful response. Respect appreciates. Sensorality selects elementality. Fundamental theorem of geometry, elementality produces symmetry. Again, this overall elementality, preservation of elementality, discrete objects having definite densities, produces spacing, produces symmetry, produces positioning. And so again, those all of the things you can see on the screen when you go look at a menu at a restaurant, that limiting or that maximizing of the efficiency of elementality is what every designer of a menu is doing, every pamphlet is doing, every brochure is doing. But that irreducible spacing and occupancy of space is what elementality is. Are products useful? Is utilization useful? So another geometric kind of statement. I know we've hit it over email. I don't know if we've hit it in this derivation, but the phrasing, right? Two wrongs don't make a right, but three lefts do. Again, it's something that I've derived personally. I've definitely heard something to that effect in sentience and consensus speak, just how out into the wild hear somebody else say it. But it's true, right? And now here's the interesting thing, right? From that statement, right, two wrongs don't make a right, but three lefts do. Why is left, right, pi over 2 or pi over 4 or 90 degrees, right? If three lefts make a right, which it does, but that implicitly says one left is a 90-degree rotation. It's true. Just an empirical fact. The actual phrasing popped up again, but sensorality completes rotation. A cycle is a complete rotation. What is rationality to sensationality? What is rotating to toggling? So this is another interesting word that's clear to like user interfaces, the development of the computer, but toggling, again, there is no multitasking, so you toggle because you can't multitask, but it's heavily, again, associated to computers or user interfaces. But to rotate, to switch, to toggle, just emphasizing that word, again, 3 G's. What is abbreviation to appreciation? Sensation is appreciative, sensorality is speciative. Using that word form, appreciative, speciative. Sensorality is speciativality. Natural definition, direct iteration, just a generalization, again, another goofy linguistic word form. Sensorality is speculative, sensorality is speculativality. It's a generalization of speculative. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is stability speculative? What is glaciality to torrentiality? Is a glacier like a molasses in January? That's where our initial analogy came from. Fundamental theorem of velocity. Glaciers are glacial. Glaciality is a snail's pace. Natural definition, direct iteration. Again, we have to pair this fundamental inversion that is preserved by the letters to this conceptual inversion and flip it in a way where we can iterate the letters and show this not paradox that resolve this not paradox that we've formed, meaning, again, this linguistic derivation, this derivation. Emphasizing glaciers are glacial, again, that glacier spelled with an E, glacial spelled with an A. Come on in here, Gus Mode. Come help us out. Help us save the snail's pace. But just the most general statement we can make about velocity, explicit consideration that velocity, again, is this rapidity. Momentum is rapid change. Velocity is rapid change of position. Glaciality is a snail's pace. Glacier et glace comme glace. Again, one of these, again, I'm not like trying to use random French words. It's just glacier, and then I wanted to make some association to glace, like ice cream, just because of the syllability. But then naturally, like what verbs I use, it's like it just feels more readily to use like the comparison. Glacier, a glace, comb, glass. To again, preserve the overall phonetic presentation. Just feels right, I don't know. Glacier is glace as glass, like glass. It's just, that's the natural presentation, just emphasizing it for whatever it's worth. Qua a glace a grace. Again, same thing, just the direct iteration of the syllability. That's how it naturally feels most correct to present it. Rhythm is graceful. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is graceful to grateful? Is grace a race? Is racism graceful? Direct iteration, focusing on the letters. Again, I don't know if I can speak like an adult or like a person at any point in time in my life, because you can't speak against consensus. You can't speak against sentiment. And it's not a law, it's not a thing, it's just a bunch of pathetic people getting offended by whatever offends them in that 5 seconds. And now we have no laws. It's profoundly shameful. Does containment exist? Again, there are no closed systems, all black bodies radiate. What is containment? Does it exist? What is continuity? Does it exist? What is containment to completeness? What is comprehensivity to containment? Again, logically and physically, we're just describing what is a boundary. Right? We're solving our boundary conditions linguistically. That's our demonstration of completable syllability. Is comprehensivity comprehensible? Sensorality is comprehensibility. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is syllability to comprehensibility? What is comprehensibility to intelligibility? Again, you're on some sort of scanner, some sort of comms device, communication systems, and you hear, yeah, he's going to, yeah. Right, he's going to the, right? You hear some syllabilities, but then you'll see a word up on the screen, it's unintelligible. Direct iteration, that consensus usage. Sensorality is intelligibility. What is intelligibility to eligibility? Natural definition, direct iteration. I feel like we've hit that directly before. Again, in sensorality, we've certainly hit a bunch of these in speciality, because there's a finite conceptual basis that you derive through to stabilize these definitions. All axiomatic derivation, which again you've never seen before, is this process, will be this process, could never have been anything but this process. So then on a personal level, once I vocally articulate all of these pairs in this reduction, it's just like, again, I don't want to do math again. I don't know, man. I'm not going to live a day of my life. What am I even talking about? I have no headspace of like, I'm ever going to get out of this. There's nobody to call. Like, there's nobody aware of my work. There's nobody that could help me that isn't already aware of my work and demonstrably couldn't care. I mean, it's just the most disgusting, shameful thing ever. But not their family, not their life. Who cares? Fuck Brad. It's always been the behavioral immediate response. But sensorality is intelligence. Why was all his intelligence wasted on a male? He's like 6 years old. He literally can't perceive what's going on. Here's everybody's thoughts in order, syllable by syllable. For sure, we're on lap number 3. Is intelligence agentic? Our agentic supercycle triple. I have one stock position. I'm short on CF 25 shares, and we just made a little pop up. Of course, obviously. What is intelligence to agency? What is intelligence to fluency? What is agency to fluency? Sensorality is a fluent agent. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is intelligentiality. Again, a generalization of intelligence. But you kind of get that like intelligentsia. Like I've seen like that linguistic construction kind of out there in the wild before. Yeah. Kind of like similar to like academia, but intelligentsia. Some sort of logical relationship there. But kind of trivial linguistic word form again. Generalization of intelligence. What is orality to intelligence? Sensorality senses intelligence. Direct iteration. Intelligence is influential. Natural definition, direct iteration. Influential is instrumental. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is an intelligent instrument. Sensorality is an intelligent agent. No Gus mode. We're solving Albert Einstein. We already solved Albert Einstein. Now we're just doing the logical refinement. We've literally derived everything. That was when we said, look around you. Everything is a stabilized dynamic of charge that produces mass. That density is definite. Gus mode. Aroo! Come in here, bub. And then we have PV equals nRT. But that's kind of our two big, what is energy, and then understanding PV equals nRT, because again, there's no more equations. It's just showing and having this conceptual understanding, because the equations are huge logical reductions at the species level, right? That's why Sean Carroll hasn't produced his E equals MC squared equation. But influential is instrumental. Again, something about musicality. The context feels like definable, or at least like the last recycling, the cycling process. Moving along. Sensorality is an intelligent we already did this. A little bit of repetition. Thank you, Gus mode. We like Gus. We really like Gus, actually. Is intelligence a contingency? Is intelligence studious? Sensorality is studiosity. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is studious virtuous? Sensorality is velocity virtue. Is fidelity a virtue? Is intelligence virtuous? Sensorality appreciates intelligent conversation. Direct iteration. Intelligence stimulates. Is a good conversation an aphrodisiac? Again, we've already pointed out that logic like 5 times. Sensorality differentiates differentiation. Direct iteration. Sensorality appreciates differentiation. Direct iteration. So again, speciality, the tendency to differentiate, our operative word logically, linguistically. Speciality, differentiation. Overall, it's this conceptual progress and unique differentiation from speciality. We've been out of axiom land for a substantial amount of time now. So it's this fundamental conceptual difference to this linguistic difference, uniquely and correctly. But that's that exact step of containing and differentiating speciality. Speciality is differentiation. Sensorality differentiates differentiation. Again, this is not tautology. This is just the Dunning-Kruger effect, and you're the stupid one who can't, because all of this is logical, right? The huge physical proofing sections are still, to me, like less poignant than the logical differentiation. The logical differentiation does not seem to be appreciated by anybody, or you can understand it because it's like saying, hey, there's a painting on the wall, can you see the form? It's like, yeah. And then that guy thinking, yep, I could paint that. It's like, definitely not. Right? Again, we've used that analogy as well. But the actual logical differentiation, because it produces the word forms, and all of the word forms, it's like, again, the amount of empirical evidence. We need to go try to find dark matter. It's like, do I need to go find words? It's like they're everywhere, and they're all unique differentiations. That's what they are. It's like, do words have meaning? Yes. Okay, and then nobody gets all of this logic that I've proven like 6. Awesome, cool, I don't get to have a life. No career or family for Brad because Sean Carroll's stupid. Makes sense, it really makes sense. Sensorality differentiates change. And again, this presentation, if this process was known, this would be like 1 + 1 = 2, then 1 + 2 = 3, and we would just be articulating that amount of directness. Because again, it's a complete solution that you can't really appreciate, but here's this next step I wrote. Physical censoring is mathematical differentiation, to add emphasis. You have this association when I say the word differentiation and when I say the word censoring, you have some sort of conceptualization. But without words, when you're running around physically sorting things, separating things, differentiating things, that is the process of censoring. So that physical process to those words, which it already is. Right? And then we're just filling in the back of all of the linguistic usage. It is what it is the total linguistic differential, and then we have to make it specific enough with our common denominators, our common syllability, to derive what is a censor. But Physical censoring is mathematical differentiation. Because this entire time we've been saying differentiation, you've been feeling it in like a mathematical, hey, let's differentiate a function, which it has been. It's just there's different points of different parts of the proofing which we emphasize different things. Because it's all a logical differentiation. We use the same letters, we use the same words, and it's the order in which they're placed which gives logic its meaning. Right, again, a word is unique. This notebook is what it is. It's a notebook. How does this notebook relate to that bed? Right, that's a word. And that uniqueness of this object to that object, that unique relationship of uniqueness is logic. We said that last time. Again, none of these steps no independent step is any more or less important than any other step. It's just, again, this overall progress. But we did have another step. I forget the actual word. But I said explicitly, like, this step would still be like a, why did you do that? And we went from an E to an O. That has now popped back up. Sensorality is difforality, right? Like differ, but just iterate the E to an O, diffor. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is difficulty. Differentiation is filtration. Filters differ, direct iteration. What is appreciality to differentiality? Appreciable is significant. Sensorality is appreciability. Natural definition, direct iteration. And again, these alities to ability forms and progressions, it's correct, and it's like immediately, obviously, linguistically, but I still don't do them until it's like conceptually the right time, I guess. And it's still just all this overall feeling progress. Just meaning when you write down appreciality, why is the next step not appreciability? When the appreciability form, this ability form, is like the solvable thing, because again, it has that completeness of a whole word, ability. Again, just emphasizing that, I don't do that. It just doesn't, going from appreciality to appreciability in one step, it just doesn't feel, it just feels like the right steps. These are the right steps. These are all in order. You guys can't keep up. So I'm emphasizing the things that seem important. Sensorality is an intelligent answer. Fundamental theorem of physics, resonance synchronizes. Direct iteration, synchronization is agreement. Again, that resonates with me. I agree with that. But literally, physically, what is resonance? It is synchronization. Sensorality is a peer pressure sensor. Little before and after category on Jeopardy here. Natural definition, direct iteration. Sensorality is a worsening sensor. Direct iteration, natural definition. Again, remember, before we kind of brute force in a crude way, sensorality, sorsenality. Worsening, like the last syllable of worsening, it's definitely that one. I can just feel it. You should be able to feel it too. But just emphasizing that. Sensorality is a worsening sensor. Natural definition, direct iteration. Is worsening a warning? What is warning to winning? Worse is the opposite of better. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is opposite to appetite? Again, the elementality. Sensorality appreciates appetite. Direct iteration. Un petit appétit pour un petit déjeuner. Direct iteration. Faites le entrepreneur a un appétit. Un grand appétit. Again, trying to emphasize, we have this word appetite in English. The syllability is clearly French. But again, it's another one of these un petit appétit, but then using the English pronunciation appetite, and then emphasizing the conjugation of un to ap, the A-P-P-E, that Again, it's part of this derivation. It just felt like that was what to emphasize, because that's what the conjugation is. Because I literally had un, and then it was un, ap, but again, using the English pronunciation appetite. For again, and then kind of a petit déjeuner, again, a lunch, but a small dinner, a small appetite for a small dinner, but conceptually and directly what I said was un petit, like again, the French part, and then appetite, the English pronunciation of the French-looking word, pour un, French, for a, and then the actual petite, again, back in French, and then why is petit déjeuner, lunch, right? And so that's just like a kind of like an amalgamation. And then fait l'entrepreneur a un appétit. Right? Does the entrepreneur have an appetite? A big appetite. Again, just I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a hungry person, I'm a go-getter. Again, it just feels like logic to articulate. Sensorality is a healthy appetite. Natural definition, direct iteration. What is a healthy appetite to a good metabolism? Just progressing through our linguistic analysis, again, the overall progression is well defined. We are out of fundamental new novel things. We're just going to arrive at complete definite syllability that defines a sensor independent of me, independent of you, linguistics to physics completely. But my rights continue to be violated. I've already demonstrated completeness, the logical form of we have stability from our great governor here in the state of Ohio, and I continue to beg for a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. Again, restricting my rights, restricting my property, and forcing me to be in a specific area is 100% pursuant to the Ohio Code of kidnapping. When it's done by the government, it is scientific persecution. Any attempt to lie about history will be treated militantly. It's like, again, not like you guys. I can't express the crimes being committed against me without me sounding like I'm the problem and I'm not a problem. I literally have never been able to articulate the crimes being committed against me. And so if you try to lie about my life story in any capacity, you will be sued, you will be criminally prosecuted, you will be prioritized for prosecution. I continue to beg for a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. Again, every workable waking minute of my life for the past 15 years has been, how do I create a life for myself? It is not possible unless somebody shows me some mercy. No one cares. I continue to document that. I, again, cannot emphasize enough. I cannot confidently articulate the crimes being committed against me because you guys are too pathetic to hear them. Literally, genuinely, absolutely, immediately. And so my life quality remains at 0, and I have no expectation it will ever change. That is what I have for right now. Thank you for watching. See you on the next one.